एक चांस दे दीजिए मैडम।
मैडम, ये रिक्शे वाले का बच्चा है, फ्रॉम द स्लम्स।
हमारे घर के बच्चे क्या मुंह दिखाएंगे?
आधे से ज्यादा तो एडमिशन टेस्ट अब में खत्म हो गया।
अपना औकात भूल गया रिक्शा वाला।
कितना हो गया?
सब मिलाकर भी 3000 कम पड़ेगा।
इतना हेवी लोन कौन देगा तुमको? सारा रेपुटेशन जीरो।
पगलवा सपना देखा है तुम्हारे बाप ने और मौका खड़ा किया है इतना मुश्किल से तुम्हारे लिए। अब अपना मन दबा के रख और वो करके दिखा जो है तुम्हारे अंदर।
ये परीक्षा मत छीनिए हमसे।
Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of HUNAR CHARCHA. And as you know, HUNAR CHARCHA is now HUNAR CHARCHA online for the past few months. And it's only been all the more exciting because we're getting so many more names across the world, across the country. And today, once again, we have someone very special. He is a theatre personality. He's a Hollywood actor. He's in Bollywood as well. He's an integral part of global cinema, and he's also a stand-up comic and a great mimic as well. Anything else? Well, I'm sure we'll find that out in the course of the HUNAR CHARCHA online. We have ADIL HUSSAIN. ADIL, thank you so much for being with us. How have you been?
Hi, thank you, Sahar, for bringing me on HUNAR CHARCHA, because it's a privilege to be in a place where you think I have some hunar.
Absolutely, what are you saying? How is the course of this the lockdown and the slowdown been treating you? Because we speak to a lot of creatively inclined people who are in the business of the creatives, and of course they have far more sensitive minds, and they're sensitive much more to changes. Some say that they're used to the solitude, that's how they practice their arts. But how have you managed so far in these past few months, really?
All of that you mentioned, I think it had been extremely reflective and introspective time. We all most probably had gone through the same in different ways. I had been always a loner till I got married, and I love company. I love human company very, very much. But at the same time, I also had started enjoying my solitude since 1995. I still remember the day when it happened. And I will go there later because that's a different story altogether. But culminating the last 5 months, to the point that we most probably all realize that how minimum or bare minimum that we need in order to be satisfied in terms of resources, in terms of human company, in terms of all kinds of, like, also the fact that I realized how much water I misused and how much food resources I misused, electricity I misused, and in terms of financial things, financial resources that I misused or we misused as a family. And all that had sort of, and also the fact that we realized that how much I missed my family time. Right. We have a 10-year-old son, and me and my wife, only 3 of us in this family. So I realized that our son Kabir, who grew up almost without me in a way, because this is the longest 5 months that I've ever been home since last 10 years, since the time he was born. So all that, and also to reflect upon the craft that, or the art, I believe that I love, which was not being reflected upon because of the continuity of the work. One after the other, I had been acting in films. So just to step back and re-look at it and revisit the basics of acting, which I had been taught by my teachers, great teachers, you know, amazingly great teachers. And they are still in touch with me and I'm in touch with them. So I started working with them again on the basics. So it had been overall an amazing time. At the same time, very disturbing. It did not shake my core, but I had been sort of shaken my upper part of the, if I consider myself a tree, then the upper part was in storm, but thankfully I had been rooted deeply into myself. So it did not shake my roots. Seeing what was going on around in the country, in the world, you know, in terms of all the people, those who had been sort of displaced because of COVID-19 and people who have died, people, those who I know have died, you know, acquaintances, nobody died in my immediate family. So overall, it had been a very, very trying, at the same time also insightful time.
Wow. You put it across so eloquently, Adil. A lot of it is relatable to anyone else as far as staying at home and having family time and enjoying that. But listening to a deep-rooted actor such as you, to think that there was this time and an important time where you think you had to revisit part of your skill. One would think that there is perfection in what you do, but do you think this revisiting time, this intermediate time that we've had till really sets open up and the country and the world starts opening up, is going to impact your performances as well eventually?
It has already started impacting because I just came back from a shoot from Scotland.
Okay.
I was acting in a film called Bell Bottom, directed by Ranjit Tiwari and other actors from Bombay, you know, Akshay Kumar and Lara Datta, Vani Tripathi, Huma, and all that. So I felt the changes. I felt that I probably have gone a bit deeper into the craft, into being here and now. Because the crux of acting, according to my experience, is how deep can we go in the moment?
Right.
And that had been always the most elusive thing that every mystic in the world and all the great acting teachers across the globe and all great actors have always talked about, that be here and now and respond. And so I guess I have gone a little, you know, little deeper into the now, and how to be in the now is a craft, is a practice that the greatest of the mystics have always talked about from across the globe, not only from India, but the shamans, you know, the mystics, the Sufis, the great mystics of India. So they always talked about that, be in the moment, you know. Even the New Age, you know, gurus, they also talk about the same. So,
and
yes,
we still know to come back then. Going in only further deeper, but not risking coming back.
See, you should not actually come back. You should always be in the now. Because according to the shamans, Seher, that they say that the body does not recognize past or future. It only travels in the space-time of now. Only our mind goes to the past or future. But the physical body does not recognize past or future. That's the reason that when we think of something which is not pleasant, we feel unpleasant at this moment. When we think of something which has happened in the past, which is good, or about to happen in the future, that you know that you're going to meet a great friend of yours and you're already happy because the body feels that it is happening now. So I would rather practice being in the now and don't come out of it.
Okay. Always in the moment. Yes, that's the beauty
Yes.
of it. But I also want to congratulate you for two of your films in which you are playing the protagonist, which is Pareeksha as well as Nirvana in Pareeksha. Personally, I am completely blown away by that performance, as I told you earlier as well. It was just it was magical. It was magical, and it left me totally broken. That was the impact of your performance, which was so brilliant, really. I mean, thank you for sharing that with us. You know, but with Pariksha and Nirvana, they're both the characters are really opposite. I don't know if I've understood that well. One is aspirational and positive and hopeful uh,
Correct.
about building a better life, and then the other is suicidal and sinister, and there's a darkness to him. So,
Yeah.
but they're both very strong characters, and they're entirely poles opposite. Um, how difficult was it for you to be convincing in both parts? Uh, were there films that were shot parallel, or were they shot back to back? And how did you manage that swing, really?
No, it wasn't shot parallel. It was shot back to back. Yes.
Right.
And for both the roles I needed beard. So thankfully, it was one after the other. I did
Ah,
Pariksha first
okay.
and then Nirvana in later. uh, you see, we all, each and every human being, we have a predominant state of being. Some people are gloomy, some people are very chirpy, and in between, thousands of shades. But
Yes.
in Indian understanding of acting, which is not there in the Western education of acting at all,
Hmm. Hmm.
that there is something called sthai bhava. Sthai bhava means predominant state of being. So if an actor can find out the sthai bhava of a role,
Okay.
that, for example, Bucci Paswan in Pariksha, he is a person who is aspiring, who is fighting, who is, trying to make a living and trying to make a better living
A
or
better.
facilitating a better living for for their child.
Yes.
So that is his drive, and he is constantly looking at the world in spite of being humiliated. He is not even recognized by the rest of the society, like, which happens with every human being, male or female, who are in the working class, like the
Right.
person who opens the door for you, the person who drives your car. We do recognize them, but we do not consider them equal. It's with almost everybody who are in a middle class or affluent family. We do not really know what's going on in their world. So it is, imagine the fight of not being recognized as an equal human being. It's a huge fight. You're
Yeah.
constantly being diminished and made to feel a lesser human being
Hmm.
in life. And in spite of that, to have an aspiration, in spite of that, you want a better life and not taking up a violent means
Yes.
to which for me, they are the heroes. They are amazing heroes.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to have that within myself. I do come from a very, very lower middle class family. My father was a teacher once, then he gave up, and then he became a Muslim marriage registrar, which had no salary, no what do you call that, retirement benefits at all whatsoever. So we
Okay.
grew up in a very meager amount of financial resources. Of course, we had a piece of land, but nothing grew there except for we had a pond and we had some fish at the
All
back.
right.
So I was the last in my family, the last child, the youngest
The
one.
youngest.
So by the time my education came in, my father already had retired from that post without any retirement benefit, as I have said. So I had
All
to
right.
struggle a lot. And so it wasn't very different from what I have experienced myself. Though my father was extremely respected in the family, in the town, and he was one of the oldest, very respected member of the town. So I did not face the humiliation of being, what do you call that? The person that I played. And on the other hand, Nirvana In is a person who is constantly suffering from guilt and depression. So we do as well, each of us had faced not necessarily deep depression, but sort of setbacks, and we had done actions which we are not very happy about, we are guilty about. So the actor's job is to stick to that one feeling that you have somewhere you have felt in the journey of your life and make it your predominant emotion. And then from there, the body takes shape. The physical body takes shape of that guilt. There is a saying called this: the squirrel looks like a squirrel because of the squirrelness of the squirrel. So the guiltiness or the guilt will shape your physicality. If your physicality, that means my actor's physical body, the biological body, is trained enough that it is palpable, it is moldable. But I had good teachers, as I said before, so I managed to do that.
The span of cultures and languages that you cover through your global cinema, through the roles that you've picked up, such as does it tend to get complicated in understanding different languages and then the import of that culture? For instance, your Norwegian film, for which of course you're also the first Indian to have received, to be the recipient of the Norwegian National Award as well for that film, which is called What Will People Say, where you play a Pakistani man. So first is understanding the culture of the Pakistani man, from where he's coming from, and to being an immigrant in the new country in Norway and adjusting to another country. So it's understanding two different countries and yet managing to look convincing. So
Min dotter.
Hvor skal du? Jeg må stikke nå.
कहाँ थी तुम इतनी देर? वक्त का एहसास है तुम्हें?
ज्यादा कर खाओ।
नहीं चाहिए तुम्हारी जैसे बेटी मुझे।
ऐसी सजा देता, वरना हम तो किसी को मुंह दिखाने के काबिल नहीं रहेंगे।
हम कहाँ जा रहे हैं? पापा, हम कहाँ जा रहे हैं?
वैसे सब इंतजाम हो गया है मिस्टर।
क्या इंतजाम?
पापा से गले नहीं मिलोगी। मैं सिर्फ तुम्हारे अच्छा चाहता हूँ।
अब तुम हमारी ही एक बेटी हो।
मैं सिर्फ अपने पेरेंट्स का कल्चर सीखने के लिए आई हूँ।
तुम्हारे पेरेंट्स का नहीं, तुम्हारा कल्चर। बताओ अपने अब्बू को क्या गुल खिला कर आई हो?
तुम मेरी सब कुछ हो।
He is a migrant from Pakistan to Norway.
right.
Now, I had been a migrant myself, from Assam to New Delhi. When I first came to even Kolkata, I found it, oh my God, this is a city of no affection. even Calcutta, I felt like that.
Oh my
Coming
God,
from
Delhi,
a small little town.
Delhi
Now,
must have
then from
felt completely ruthless to
this
you
is
then.
shocking. It was shocking for me.
Oh God.
It was like, oh my God, where am I? And then from Delhi, when I went to study in England, and I was like, oh my God, people are so cold, and they are so. And I had hardly a friend in the during the time when I studied there. So it and then slowly you start also empathizing because of the nature of the work that I had been in, because also of the teachers that I got, that I realized that, oh my God, what a person behaves in a certain way because of hundreds and thousands of reasons.
Right.
So judging on the face value is not what I have to practice as a practitioner of art. I must find why the person is the way the person is. Where do those actions appear from, words appear from, behavior appears from? That's my job as an actor. And I cannot be a sensitive actor unless I am deeply empathetic to each and every human being that I meet, which I'm not saying I have become like that, but I try my best. I fail, definitely. So migrant person, I have experienced it myself. So it is always that your truth that you bring into the character and give a sort of an impression that the world of the character or the role that the writer and director has sort of created with their own imagination. So I try to fit into the imagination and the larger scheme of the director and the writer. I don't know if I've answered your question, but this is how...
I understand it, and I find synergy in what you've just said because of a very recent conversation which I had with our great artist Jatin Das. I was speaking with him to him about his latest series that he was doing, and he also was so troubled by the migrant crisis that a few months ago he started painting just the migrants of what he saw. And he said the same thing. He says, I empathize with them because I can relate to them. I'm a migrant in this city. And that is where my pain comes from, and that is why I feel for them. So it's very much the same thing of what you've said of putting yourself in that situation of their misery and finding that link to your life as well. So that was beautiful to hear it from you again. So hearing it from Jatinda and then hearing it in your art as well. I've heard you say this before in an interview that acting is a drill, and for someone who takes up acting, it's purely for passion. I'm sure people are not picking up the job just for glamour or fame or money, because there's so much more to it, and it comes in purely from passion and the desire to be able to perform in an act. But a drill sounds like something that puts you through a rough process, which is not necessarily enjoyable.
No, I must have said that drill is that one has to practice the fundamentals like a singer would do. Saregama, the sargam, the riwaz, that is a drill. So acting is, for me, very simply, if I define acting, is the process where a person does an action. When I say action, I do not only mean physical action, like I'm moving my hand or I'm sitting here or I'm talking to you. But action is something which happens in the subtlest form in your mind, as thoughts, and speech is a larger and louder action, and a physical action is even louder action. Loudest, I would say. Okay. So that is how simply I define acting. A person who does an action and the process is acting, and the doer of the action is an actor.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So yes, the doer of an action is an actor. Now the difference between the doer of an action, a person who has taken this particular kind of being aware of the doing, and the person who is not in the profession of acting, what is the difference? Or my action as Adil in everyday life and my action in a given circumstances created by the writer director, what is the difference between that? The difference is of intensity, difference is of vibrancy, difference is of the depth of the truth.
Right.
Because in everyday life, I don't need to be so careful, so attentive, so focused or concentrated. I have the luxury to be not attentive, to say something which I don't mean. But even if I have to say something which you don't mean in a given circumstance, I have to deliberately do that. So there where it comes in the craft, the culminate or the marriage between spontaneity and deliberation. That like for a dancer, that the dancer knows that I have to do my hand like that, but yet she does it. And the difference between a good dancer and a bad dancer is when a good dancer does it, then you don't realize that she's doing it only for this is his 400th time.
Right.
This could be the first time she is exploring it for the first time again.
Right.
And so that is the difference between action in everyday life and an action in given circumstance. That I know I have to say these lines. 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 And yet I'm as if I'm saying it for the first time. So that's a very tricky part of acting. So drill is the word that you mentioned, drill. Drill is to keep practicing that every day. Being aware of your own thoughts, the thoughts which cross your mind unaware, become aware, catch it, almost like a dream catcher. You catch it and realize that, oh, that thought crossed my mind. That's the reason I'm feeling this way right now. That I suddenly thought, oh my God, is my mom okay? And you go into a little, anxiety mode. If you realize that that thought is just a thought, it's not a reality. And then you're like, okay, that's just a thought. And your emotional body is not stirred because you have not allowed that thought to stir your emotional being.
Right.
So these are the drills that you keep doing it all the time. And of course, to prepare the physical body, so that the body can take shape, there are hundreds of exercises. Like one of my teachers says very beautifully that actors are the laziest breed of artists. Because dancers, painters, singers, they practice. They practice all the time. You cannot be a dancer without practice, but actors think they don't have to practice anything. They can just come and act. So people, those who practice, they become greater actors.
Right.
And people, those who just sing, they sing, okay song, but to sing like Bhimsen Joshi, even the finest Bollywood playback singer, if he or she has to sing like Bhimsen Joshi, he or she has to put in at least 20 years, another 20 years of their life in order to sing like Bhimsen Joshi. So that's the difference between a greater singer and just a modern singer.
Right. Wonderful. I understood that. So thanks for that. I was a bit puzzled when you said that, but now, of course, when you revisited yourself and explained it, you've of course, as you've mentioned so many times before, that you started out and you also explored for a while in being a stand-up comic. And when people watch your movies and see you perform, they often say कि आप बहुत serious role करते हैं. That's your description, that you're a very serious actor, and that's the kind of roles that you pick up and the movies that you do. do you think you can go back to comic as effortlessly and and that you're open to doing one such light-hearted role as well?
Well, I think that what I preferred when I saw great acting when I was a kid, or when I was a teenager, I enjoyed amazing acting. For example, my first English language film was Papillon. Dustin Hoffman played one of the prisoner who was imprisoned with Steve McQueen on an island in the sea, and he tries to break free all the time. And then at the same time, I also enjoyed doing stand-up comedy. Yes. So not an aspiration, but I would say I wanted to be an actor who could do all kinds of roles, not only to be categorized as a comic actor. And that is also the problem, not only in India, but across the globe. Once you have done something, like in my case, as you're saying, I am considered a serious actor who does intense roles, you know. But those who are in Assam, who have seen me since my childhood being a clown or even stand-up comic in Assam, they never thought I could play a serious role. So they never cast me in a serious role. So we have this human tendency to sort of box you in a certain way. But I would expect our casting directors to be more open-minded and more unconventional, and they should. That's why one has become an actor, to explore different kinds of roles. And I have done one, not a comic role, but a lighter role in a film called Z+, which is on Netflix. And it has been directed by Dr. Chandra Prakash Dwivedi Saab, and which is a funny film. And I think people don't know about it. It is on Netflix. I would ask you also to if you have time, please watch it. ZED+, Z Plus Security. So Z Plus. It is a very funny film, and I'm sure that you would see other side of mine as well.
प्रधानमंत्री फतेहपुर आ रहे हैं और दरगाह के रिकॉर्ड से पता चला है कि उस दिन के खादिम आप होंगे। प्रधानमंत्री जी पूरे 20 मिनट तक आपके साथ बिताएंगे। किस्मत के साण हैं आप पैंचो।
अस्सलाम पंजरोला डे नाइट सर्विस।
ये पढ़े लिखे लोगों का मोहल्ला है, तुम्हारे जैसे जाहिल और गंवारों का नहीं।
क्यों अपनी सुबह बर्बाद कर रहे हो?
जंग लगी तलवार ने तुम्हारे प्यार में मेरा जीना हराम कर रखा है। पंचो,
तेरी माँ की
जलता है तुम मुझसे।
मैं तुझे काट के फेंक दूंगा। Any problem?
आप भी पड़ोसी पाकिस्तान से परेशान हैं। मैं भी हुजूर। बार-बार मुझे जान से मारने की धमकी मिल रही है पड़ोसी से।
It's terror alert. Give him Z security.
एक देश का प्राइम मिनिस्टर एक सड़क पर जोड़े पंक्चर।
जय हिंद सर।
तुमने ऐसा क्या कह दिया प्रधानमंत्री से कि घर के बाहर इतनी पुलिस लग गई?
और मिल गए दोनों लक।
ये सब दिन रात यही रहेंगे?
जी मैडम।
क्या आपको कोई धमकी मिली है?
कौन है ये नौलू? बहुत पैसे वाला है क्या?
नहीं भाई, दरगाह में खादिम है।
खादिमों को कब से धमकी देने लग गए हम लोग?
सिपाही दाएं बाएं जो चाल भी साथ।
अब क्या मुझे भी तारे गिन गिन के रात काटनी होगी?
24 घंटे मुझ पर पहरा है मेरी जान। इस पूरे क्रिकेट टीम को लेकर तुम्हारे यहाँ कैसे आऊँ? दिन में एक बार अकेले बाहर जाने दिया करे ना।
ये मुमकिन नहीं है सर।
जीना आराम हो गया मेरा। ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे मैं अपने लिए नहीं, भर थर करके लिए जी रहा हूँ।
तुम लोग उसका पीछा छोड़ क्यों नहीं देते?
हम ऐलान कर देंगे जज सिक्योरिटी के अंदर घुस के हमने झंडू को ठोका है।
Also about theatre, because theatre has been such a major part of your repertoire, and political satire. When we started out, Bhaiya Mama group, which was and political satire, which is a very important part of our daily discourse, which for various reasons today is considerably muted and censored. What do you think it does to a set of people, a society, a community to be censored from a certain kind of discourse of thinking and questioning as well. And I'm asking this from an actor's point of view. Can it really translate into a compromise in rigor, or even a compromise in wanting to use your skill and your art as a tool and talk about issues that are more connected to people's lives?
I think the role of a person who practices art, especially those who are in the vocal form, like who plays with words, actors, who does stand-up comedy, are the ancestors of stand-up comedy are the royal clowns. The clowns in the courtyard, Birbal, for example, in Akbar's, and before that, much before that as well. In Assam, when we grew up, the form is called Oja Pali. Oja is the person who is the senior, and Pali is his assistant. Okay. So they always were, given this permission to criticize the authorities, the kings, royal kings. We still have it. And so we took that form, but in a very modern way, and we criticized the issues in the politics, socio-political issues. We always did that. And I think that if a government becomes extremely worried about this criticism, then the job of an artist is to just find another way. The greatest of art had come out from the most regimented regime like Iran. Iran had been making such great movies, even to the point that the government even doesn't understand that these films are criticizing. It is so fine.
Right.
So in restriction, in confinement, great art can come out. A great way, even finer way of expressing yourself can come out. You see, society, art, politics, these are all in the process of evolution.
Yes.
So evolution means not only for a section of humanity, but all section of humanity. How we criticize people, how we do, what are the words or vocabulary or jargon that we use in order to criticize the government or the society, and a section of people who are ruling us, or the section of people, those who we are so-called calling Bollywood, they have not landed from Mars. They are the product of our society. So if they are responsible for certain misadventures, if I am putting it lightly, so are we.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
we are also equally responsible. So before pointing the finger at others, we have to really look at ourselves as well. How we are corrupt in our everyday life, how we are not retaining or maintaining integrity in our everyday action. Each and every human being and each and every family, we fall from our from integrity. We fall from our own moral compass. We fall from our own aspirations. It's a tightrope walk. So you cannot, the stand-up comedy subjects and the words that they use, they just cannot say, oh, the government is doing this. What are you doing in order for becoming an example for the government to look at you? That, oh my God, this guy is doing that. Because government is not something which is hanging in the air. They are constructed.
And it's within us as well, as much. Yeah.
They're people.
Yeah.
If they have a point of view, of strong point of view, and so do you. So there must be certain reasons that they have this particular point of view. How are they, doing what they are doing? Because they have a strong point of view. They believe it is true for them. The artist's job is not to point fingers, but to create and facilitate dialogues.
Right.
That's the job.
And
build bridges.
No, I think that is literally quote unquote, or what you said, that it's a job for the artists to not point fingers, to build bridges, to serve the purpose of a balm in society. But these are very stressful times. We're seeing a lot of finger pointing, and we're not really seeing those bridges being built. Do you feel personally hurt with that?
I do not feel hurt. I feel that we have not, we in a sense, we, when I say, I'm saying the policies of the consecutive government since the beginning of independence, we have not invested enough in the education, artistic education of our society. We have not taken emotional intelligence as one of the most important aspects to put into the education system, so that we grow emotionally as well. Most of us, I see, including myself, I'm not excluding at all, that we behave like 8-year-olds. You know, if you even look at the films that are being made in India from South or from Bombay, apart from very few, are meant actually for 8-year-olds or 9-year-olds, you know. The television series that we have seen so far, apart from very few filmmakers, apart from very few script writers, most of the films are meant for school kids. There are no subtle human complexity which are being talked about. So we haven't those are the consequences of the kind of education that we had been given since our independence, the leftover of the British education system, that was meant to create labors to run our country, not for wisdom, not for artistic wisdom, not for human wisdom, not understanding how India is so rich with its own wisdom. We have not incorporated those things in our education system. So this is the result. The result is in front of us.
So that's why you say that Bollywood per se is not putting enough seriousness or research in the script. But given the fact that it comes as a complete package, as is always said, there is this bonanza of music and entertainment, and which is why, unfortunately, sometimes script does become secondary. The entertainment takes over because the country needs it so much more. Do you think it is also understanding what serves the country better?
I don't know what kind of service are we talking about here. If art does not serve or does not facilitate for critical thinking, if the aim or the intent behind artistic creation, if we can at all call it artistic creation, it is most of the time just films. Not to elevate a film to a level of art, then we have to have certain standard which has to be followed according to my understanding of art. And so, as I said, that Bollywood did not land from Mars. They are also the product of our society. You know, the way they had been educated, the way we had been taught in the school, as I had been saying in some of the other interviews, that we have to be the go-getters. We have to be fit for the cutthroat competition. And that we use that particular jargon just like that. It's a cutthroat competition. Yeah. So what does it mean by cutthroat? It's a violent metaphor. Yeah. How can we even think like that? Because of the kinds of education that we had been enforced or imposed upon by the consecutive governments since the independence. We have to shift from that, and we have to value the humanity. We have to value the higher human qualities in our education system. We have to redefine our economic development. We have to redefine how we look at ecology, look at environment, and to understand the role of art in the evolutionary process of human beings. We have all of it. We have all of it. The deep wisdom that India has.
Yes.
All of it, we have it, but we had been too much influenced by the Western understanding how to live our life, what is good life, what is, what is, what should be respected, and what is the way that human beings can progress. We have to redefine all of that. It's a time for radical shift, radical revolutionary shift. Yes.
And hopefully some of it should be coming in here in the course of this slowdown, or what you've seen in what you also explained at the start of our conversation, that it has been revisiting a lot of things in a lot of ways. Adil Hussain, thank you so much. This has been the conversation in itself has been such a journey, because it's not just understanding an aspect of what you could share of what your art is and the process that goes behind it, but also in just how to look at life. So I think that has been very special for us here at Hunar Charcha Online.
Thank you. But you asked the right question. You are the person who brought it out.